Yes, I did. Okay. So groups. Elements in the same group behave similarly. So I mentioned, let's go back to my example from the Brainiacs one. What that means is when I put lithium in water, what I form is lithium hydroxide. Which has one lithium cation and one hydroxide anion. We're going to learn these terms. Don't get hung up on the terms. I'm mainly focused on the reaction at this point. The next one I said was sodium. When you put sodium in water, you get out sodium hydroxide. Which has one sodium ion and one hydroxide ion. When you put potassium in water, you get out potassium hydroxide. Which has one potassium ion and one hydroxide ion. Remember earlier when I said I talked about element 119 that doesn't exist yet? If I throw 119 in water, I'm going to get out 119 hydroxide, where I'll have one 119 cation and one hydroxide ion. Again, it's predictive. I didn't need to know what element 119 is. Also, the other thing I know is element 119 is going to be in period 8. What do you think its reactivity is going to look like? If element 55 in period 6 is explosive to blow a bathtub apart, who knows, but it's going to be very explosive. Now, most of the groups are referred to by their number. Group 3. It's the third column. Group 6 is the 6th column. But there are 4 groups that have special names. They are group 1, which is known as the alkali metals. They are the most reactive of the metals. Group 2 is known as the alkaline earth metals. They're actually known as the alkaline earth because number one, they sit right beside the alkali metals, but they're called alkaline earth because many of them are in rocks and soil and that type of thing. Then we're going to skip all the way across the periodic table to group 17. Group 17 is known as the halogens. And as we will talk, they are the most reactive nonmetals. And then finally, group 18. Group 18 is known as the noble gases. And these are your least reactive of all elements. When I'm talking reactivity, folks, I am trying to describe again, do they mix with something else to form a new compound? With that, my time is up. And I try to be very cognizant that you have 10 minutes to get to the next class. So with that, I will bid thee adieu until Thursday. And I always will answer questions. No, we're not going anywhere. We still have another class to go. We have back-to-back classes. Okay. And with baseball, of course, if you wind up missing something on because it's a sport associated, do you allow them to focus something?
I like these are the days that I'll have to miss this class.
Okay.
And then that's my email.
Okay.
And then this is a paper. Please. Tried to look. I don't think I'm gonna miss a quiz.
Well, quizzes are online, so you'll be able to do it. Today is the. Oh no. Yes.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to baseball until Monday.
Thanks.
Yes. I mean, just wanted to be specific.
Hello,
Thank you.
not a problem.
Have a good night.
Seems like a pretty cool one.
I hope it's pretty cool.
Oh, what's the, so do we have a homework poster?
No, not yet. It won't come till Thursday. You have a good one. Okay, go back to your bed. 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 You're being difficult. Thank you. Do-do-do-do-do-do. You thought that? No. You're gonna be in class. I know, Miss Luna Bear. Oh, hi, Miss Luna Bear. You want me to come sit in loves? I'll give you loves. Good puppy. Oh, so good puppy. Oh, so good baby. You rotten. Yeah, you rotten. You got me. You got me. Oh my God, child. Oh my God, child. Where's my mouse? First class. Got 2 more minutes.
Yeah.
Get back in your bed. Get back in your bed. That's your girl. Get my girl. Get my girl. I know lots of people. How's everyone? So what I plan to do today, so I'm going to do a little bit of what I was going to do on Thursday of last week. With the whole, number one, I got a call roll at some point. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to do a little bit on the syllabus and a little bit on Blackboard, and then we'll get into today's material. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to just introduce myself. Many of you I recognize, but many of you I do not recognize. So for those that don't know me, I'm
Dr. Faith Yarberry, though most people just call me Dr. Y, and have for 17, 18 years since I've been at UCA. I went to Arkansas High School in Texarkana for my 9th through or 10th through 12th grade. And then I wound up over at University of the Ozarks, where I got a bachelor's in chemistry and a bachelor's in mathematics. After University of the Ozarks, I went to Fayetteville, U of A for 1 year for graduate school, where I promptly flunked out of graduate school. I tell you that story because everybody is going to hit a barrier at some point, whether it's my class or another class, everybody hits a barrier. It is not the barrier that should define who you are. It is what you do next. Well, it took me a little while, but I went back to graduate school because that's what I wanted to do, is get my PhD in chemistry. And so I got it from the University of North Texas. I have been happily married for almost 33 years and dated my husband for 5.5 prior to that. So I've been with him all but 15 years of my life. I have a daughter. Oh, he's a chemist also. I have a daughter. She is now 29. She went to University of North Texas and got a bachelor's in chemistry and a bachelor's in criminal justice. And she promptly decided she wanted to go to law school. And she is now a public defender out in Amarillo, Texas. I have 4 dogs, one of which came with the property. Her name is Marley. She's a sweet old girl. I have 2 miniature dachshunds. One is named Rosie after Rosalind Franklin, and one is named Anna after the first female president of the American Chemical Society. And then there's this sweet puppy. This sweet girl is my service dog. Her name is Luna Bear. Her name comes from first of all, Luna is directly related to the moon, but with respect to chemistry, it is directly related to the element silver. And she is a golden doodle. So I've got silver and I've got gold. And then I could not go without naming her Bear, because it's serendipitous that I'm a UCA Bear, because I didn't play with dolls. I played with bears. And so if you come to visit me in my office, you're going to even see some bears. But it is the number in my office pale compared to the number of boxes of bears that I have. I probably need to give them to a fire department or something at this rate. As far as who am I outside of my family, I read a lot. I do read romance, but I also am very big into the Forgotten Realms world, and have read almost all of the books about Drix the Dark Elf. I am a fanatic about cooking, so I do watch a lot of Food Network. But I just love to cook. And then I am also I do watch movies. I tend to watch action movies, so they tend to be DC, Marvel. I can't choose. It all depends on my mood at the time. I play Dungeons and Dragons once a week. I've got 2 different campaigns going. So that just gives you a little bit about me. Now, why do I go into so much detail? I mean, obviously, Dungeons and Dragons and other stuff is unrelated to chemistry. Fact is, folks, I am just a person. I had the tenacity to get my PhD, but I am not my PhD. I am just a person. And I want you to feel comfortable coming to talk to me as a person. Whether you come and talk to me about the class, fine. But you can also come and talk to me if you have any issues that you need somebody to talk to. I will listen. I am not going to psychoanalyze because I'm not a psychologist, but I will listen. If it is issues related to campus, well, I have spent 7 years living on the UCA campus. I actually lived in Hughes Hall for 2 years and in Arkansas Hall for 5 years as a live-in faculty member. That gives me an insight into the struggles that that the individuals living in residence halls may go through. It also gives me an idea of the various offices on campus and who I can call if there is an issue. Now, I can't say I'll solve everything, but I can try to help you if you have needs that need to be solved. You just gotta ask. So that's a little bit about me. And yes, and the other thing about me that I haven't said yet is I love questions. Feel free to ask me questions. And usually there's very few things I won't answer. So feel free to ask me any questions you may have. So,
Now I am going to, as soon as I locate it, I know I printed it off. Accidentally passed the roll out. No, it would have been on top probably. Maybe I'm not gonna do the roll because I don't know what I've done with it. I bet I didn't get it off my printer. So I will be doing the roll on Thursday. Actually, I'll do the roll tomorrow in lab. I am super excited. I get to have you not only in class, but I get to have you in lab. Y'all are just stuck with me. But it makes me so excited because lab is my opportunity to get to know my students. Now, will I know your name after tomorrow? Names are one thing I cannot learn to save my life. It just takes me forever. But give me a couple, about 3 or 4 weeks, and I'll know everybody's name. But I get to know you, and that is super exciting to me. So I get to really get to know you in lab. So tomorrow we will have lab, and I will get to walk around some and get to know you a little bit more, and I will take roll in lab. And then I'll also take roll on Thursday. Now, probably starting Tuesday of next week, instead of taking roll the normal way, or, well, I shouldn't say the normal way. Is there a name? Instead of taking roll by calling out names, I will pass around a sheet of paper for you to sign in. And you'll sign by your name. Now, why do I take roll? Because I have some points I give just for attending class. And I make you attend class because, as I point out on page 4, Chem is try. You will not get chemistry if you don't try the chemistry. So I take roll because I think it's important that you are here to try the chemistry. So speaking of this, you'll notice my information up at the top. My office is in room 203C. That is directly across the hall from our lab. Or I should say down the little bitty hallway from our lab. So when you go to lab tomorrow, you can look across and go, hi. And you'll see my office. The next thing I have listed are office hours. Office hours are going to be Tuesdays from 2:30 to 4:30. Now, except on the second Tuesday of every month when I've got faculty senate meetings. And then they're 3 to 4:30. Starting next
Tuesday. Now, I know those office hours are in prime lab time. There's a lot of people that have 240 to 520 labs on Tuesday. Folks, the university requires me to have something in writing saying I'll be in my office during those times, but I am willing to work with you. The only day that I make an exception, and there are going to be no office hours, and that's Wednesday. But Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, I can have office hours. It's just, I'm required to put something in writing, so that's what I put in writing. But if you email me, we can work something out. Speaking of contact, my phone number's there, but unless I'm in my office, I don't answer the phone. I don't even know how to get my messages. There's some weird way you have to get messages around this place, so I don't know how to get to them. But email, even on weekends, I check my email 10, 15 times a day. And during the week, when I'm up here, it is constantly running in the background. So I check it even more. So, email me. That's the best way to get a hold of me. I'm going to let you read the next part. Grade distribution. You have lots of ways that you're going to earn your points. Folks, there are 250 points. That is a fourth of your grade is associated with the lab. And you have to really not care, usually, to not get a B or better in lab. Points are going to be related to VSEPR theory, Lewis dot structures, and stuff like that. I do class quizzes, and those are 10 points. I do homework, and that's 10 points. I have attendance, and that's 25 points of your grade. 475 points of your grade is not related to your test. Because of that, I don't have a large DFW rate in my class. The people that I've noticed make DFWs in the past usually have not put in the effort. Usually. I'm not going to say that's not always true, but usually. Now, when I talk effort, most students say they work for my class outside of class time. They usually put in about 7 hours a week doing problems. Course objective materials, scientific calculator from Dave. If you don't already have one, get one by Thursday. We're going to be using them right after that. Actually, you'll probably need one by tomorrow. Textbook is optional. The laboratories are all on Blackboard. You will need to have an active account. The reason I make the textbook optional is because, number one, I provide you with my lectures. I provide you with optional homeworks. I provide you with active homework. And the neat thing about active, excuse me, is it has a button. I don't know if I trust this. At the bottom, that takes you to what is called Open Stacks. basically OpenStax is a free textbook. But it'll actually direct you directly from your homework so that it's focused on, this is the stuff you need to know for accomplishing that problem.
So you don't have to flip as much through material.
Attendance. Lab, attendance in the lab is mandatory. You miss more than 2 labs, I have the option to drop you with a D, F, or W. Active homework's required, puzzle, that's the videos are required, active quizzes are required. Exams. There are 4 regular exams and 1 final exam. In my class, most people want to work really, really hard through the first 4 exams. Because if you really work really, really hard through the first 4 exams and you like your grade, you can drop my final. That can be the test you drop. Which, going back, I do drop a lot of things. But because I drop a lot of things, I don't do a lot of makeups. You have to miss twice for medical reasons or something like that for me to think about a makeup. You miss once, it's usually the test that I drop. Okay, the lab is the one thing I wanted to go over. Before you come to lab tomorrow, and if you get onto the online syllabus, you actually can get to this link, or you can type it in. About a third of the way down, there's a link that says HTTPS forms. You need to complete that link. You need to go in and complete the safety agreement before you come to class tomorrow, or lab tomorrow. If you haven't completed your safety agreement by the time you come to lab tomorrow, you're not allowed in. I'll let you read. One thing I want to point out, lab. On your first test, there will be 3 questions associated with significant digits. On the final, there will be 3 questions associated with significant digits. The rest of the mathematical problems in lecture, I'm not going to focus on significant digits. But in lab, where you have time to think, you will notice it's bolded. Every lab, I focus on significant digits. That is part of the grade. So when you're in lab, make sure you know how to do sig figs. If you don't know how to do sig figs, ask, because that is part of the grade. In lab, it's not as big of a deal right now because it is so cold, but you have to have closed-toed shoes. You have to have pants. I prefer not to have leggings because they're directly against the skin. I prefer pants. The reason to wear pants is if something were to break and splash on you, or anywhere splash on you, you got a little bit of protection from that chemical getting on you. And so long pants. You will need goggles. As of this morning, I posted on the announcements how you can buy goggles if you haven't already got some. The American Chemical Society student group sells goggles directly outside of your lab. They are $7. They are not goggles as in the ones that are tight around your head. They are safety glasses. And so these work with anything. Now, if you have glasses, depending upon the size of glasses, I'll let you try them before you buy them. But depending upon the size of glasses, you may need goggles. But the safety glasses go over, they'll even go over some of the glasses.
I've already mentioned scientific calculator. Print your lab before tomorrow. I'm gonna show you where. And then the last pages are your schedule. The only thing that will vary is under the material column. The only thing that I will change is the material column. I will get to what I can get to. Each test is over what I've gone over since the last test. Whether it's in the lab or in class, it's whatever I've gone over since the last test. I'm very thorough on this because you can go ahead and put all of the items assigned and dates due in your planner if you use one. That's not, because those things are not going to change. You can put your exam dates. The only reason an exam is going to change is if for some reason we're out due to weather. Speaking of weather, I'm hoping I can get home today. I still have about this much snow on the road up to my house. So when weather hits, because I live up on a ridge in the woods where there's hardly any sun, I have trouble getting in. If snowy weather hits, check. I will always post and send out an email like I did this last time. I will post it on Blackboard and send out an email as an announcement. From now on, if we miss school because of weather, I will host class synchronously on Zoom. I use Zoom for every class, whether I'm sitting here or not. And the reason is I record every class. And that way, if you miss class, you can go back and watch it. Or if you're studying for an exam, you can go back and watch it. But from now on, if there's weather, you can guarantee that I will be hosting class synchronously on Zoom. But if your internet access is awful, don't worry, you'll still be able to get it because it will be recorded and posted. And then if there, later in the semester, if there are tornadoes while we're in class, this is the storm shelter. This room. So this room and the other lecture hall are our big storm shelters. Questions? Hopefully I'm answering most of those questions. The only other thing I wanted to do is just illustrate Blackboard. So when you go out to Blackboard, you're going to have the syllabus if you lose it. The online classroom and active chemistry are going to be your two big tabs. Online classroom. A lot of people will go into the online classroom and automatically click the folder. Don't take a moment to read what I've written. So for instance, last week, I was supposed to do everything I've currently done. There was nothing due last week, and there was the lab that is tomorrow would be due tomorrow. And then once you read it, you can go in and click on it. And last week I did have another copy of the syllabus, and I also have read information on how to register for active. And basically, you follow those instructions and you'll have no problem. Now, with respect to active, there are a couple of things you need to know. Number one, you must use Chrome or Firefox. If you have an Apple product, Explorer does not work. You've got to use Chrome or Firefox. So you got to download those. Number two,
The first time you log on to Active, you must go through Blackboard. After that, you can go through the website itself. And number 3, you have Active free until Friday, January 23rd. At that point, you have to have obtained a code from the bookstore. If the bookstore says they don't have any codes, talk to me. Because it's not hard to get codes, and I'll get them codes. Yes,
If you already have an active account, we still have to go through Blackboard.
because you'll have it's associated with each class. I believe you'll have to have a new code and everything.
Do we have lab books that we'll need to get, or will they all be printed?
You will print. So, I'm glad you asked. Let's go to this week. I can figure out where I'm going. This week, again, folks, I try to be methodical and very organized. So things are going to change a little bit because, well, first they got messed up. But in general, you'll find what's going on. If you look at that first folder, or I mean, if you look at that first piece, and then what you will do is you go into that folder and you're going to find, technically there will be 4 subfolders. The 4th one is not there yet. There will be the flipped classroom lectures. Watch them. They're going to be directly aligned with what I said we were going to go over. So I said we were going to go over measurements today. There's one on measurements. I said we were going to go over significant figures. There's one on significant figures. So if you look at that first page, you'll know which ones you need to watch before you come to class. The reason which is important, I do a flipped classroom. It's flipped for a number of reasons. Number 1, you can watch the lectures before you come to class, and I can work problems with you. Because what's going to be on a test? Problems. It's flipped for another reason. And that is, you can go back and watch it before a test. You can watch any part, and I do them in small fragments, or try to do them in small fragments. It's not always small, but I try to do them in small fragments so that you can watch it here and there and not have to sit down for long periods of time. There is the laboratory materials. You will always, now the laboratory equipment one, you don't need to print this one out. With respect to the laboratory equipment, it's not opening, but
it's down at the bottom in the Word file.
oh, thank you. With respect to the laboratory equipment, you need to know this information before next Wednesday, because this is going to be your quiz in lab next Wednesday. I will pick 10 of all of it, and you will need to fill it out. But you don't have to print it. But what you do need to print for tomorrow is practice with burettes and pipettes.
You need to print out practice with pirettes and pipettes for tomorrow. Because you will be turning in the data and results before you depart tomorrow. The third folder, I know I've got some folks in here that had me for fundamental chemistry. This third folder, I know it says optional, and it is purely optional. But if you want to know what what my test is going to look like, you're going to do the optional homework. I have a lot of shaking heads. Do the optional homework and you'll know what my tests are going to look like. So. And then the last folder that will appear is going to be Zoom lectures. Again, I record every lecture so that I can post it on Blackboard, so that if you miss a class, you've got it. If you need to review something before an exam, you can review them. Any questions about Blackboard?
What is the difference between the Zoom lectures and the flipped lectures?
Flipped classroom lectures are videos I have recorded using PowerPoint typically. Zoom lectures are literally what I go over in class. Other questions? So when I do when I do problems in class, that's what's going to be on the Zoom lecture is more example problems. Other questions? I know I've spent quite a bit of time. So. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start with, instead of starting with measurements, I'm going to start with significant digits. I will do the measurements tomorrow in lab. Because you're going to be using that knowledge in lab. So I figured that would be a good way for me to at least do some of this in a manner that would work. Okay, so let me go here, share screen. Okay. So the first rule for significant figures is that non-zero digits are significant. So basically 1 through 9 are going to be significant. The second rule I like to think of as the goalpost rule. And that is digits between two significant digits are significant. What this goalpost rule does is it allows me to identify, I look at the first digit and determine whether it's significant. And I look at the last digit and determine whether it's significant. Then I know everything in between is significant. That's how I view this goalpost rule. So in other words, I'm not going through each number individually and going, oh, you're rule number one. You're rule number one. I look at the first and I look at the end. And then I count everything in between. So speaking of the goalpost rule, then what we need to do is we need to look at zeros. Zeros at the end of a number that occur after the decimal point are significant. So an example of this would be like 1.00. Well, let's just add another zero to that just to be. We know this one is significant because it's a non-zero digit. This zero is also significant because it is at the end of the number after the decimal. And now I have a goalpost. Everything in between is significant. So this value has 4 significant digits or 4 significant figures. Zeros before the first non-zero digit are insignificant. Folks, another way to think about this one is do not start counting until the first non-zero digit. That's another way you can think about that particular one. So for example, if I have 0.0001230, I don't start counting until I get to the first non-zero digit. So that one is significant. And then this one is significant because it's at the end of a number after the decimal. And then I've goalposted. So this one has 4 significant digits. Questions so far? Yes. If there were another 0, it would be 5. Basically, so let's take these few rules and let's apply these few rules to some examples. So again, I find the first non-zero digit. That is where I start, always. The first non-zero digit. That is significant. Then I look at the last digit in the number. This is significant because it is at the end of a number and after decimal. So it is significant. Therefore, that number has 5 significant figures. In other words, I'm not breaking down every single number. I look at the first non-zero. So the next number, I look at the first non-zero. That one's significant. And then I look at the end. And again, this one is significant. So this one has 5 significant figures. That's the easiest way to do this. Look at the first one. That's non-zero. Look at the last one. In this case, they're both that significant. So there's 4 sig figs. Find the first non-zero. And then look at the last digit. And determine if it's significant. And therefore, this one has 6 sig figs. Questions? By the way, how is my writing at the back of the room? Does it need to be bigger or is it fine? Now, the next 2 rules are the first rule deals with scientific notation. Scientific notation is anything where you have taken and multiplied it by 10 raised to some power. The first portion of scientific notation is known as the mantissa. Of the number. The mantissa contains all of the significant digits in a value. What I mean by that is that this first one has 3 significant digits because there are 3 digits in the mantissa. The next one has 3 significant digits because there are 3 digits in the mantissa. The last one has 4 significant digits because there are 4 digits in the mantissa. What it also means is if I take, let's say I have 0.000601230. We know that this one is significant because it's our first non-zero digit, and we know that this number is significant. If I were to put this number into scientific notation, I would need to include all of these digits in that number. So it'd be 6.01230 times 10 to the negative 4. Because you must include all significant digits in that mantissa. If I have the digit or the value of 0.0300, then I would write it as 3.00 times 10 to the negative 2, because the 3 is significant because it's the first non-zero digit, and that 0 is significant. I have to include all significant figures in the mantissa. Everything I've mentioned to this point has been a definitive. It's always the same. Non-zero digits are significant. The goalpost rule stays the same. We just defined a couple of parts of the goalpost. And the scientific notation stays the same. The ambiguity with respect to significant digits is in whole numbers. So the question is, zeros at the end of a whole number and the defining moment, if you will, is, does it have a decimal point showing? Or does it not? If it has the decimal point showing, then it is significant. If it does not have the decimal point showing, then it is not significant. So 1,000 point has 4 significant digits. But 1,000, no decimal, has only 1 significant digit. Basically, by including that point, we're defining whether that number is, whether those zeros truly exist or not, or whether it could have been an approximation. Is it 1,000 or is it approximately 1,000? The difference also, if we're looking at scientific notation, this one we would have to record as 1.000 times 10 to the third. Whereas this one would just be 1 times 10 to the third. Because again, mantissa means all significant figures are shown. The last thing related to counting significant digits is exact numbers. Exact numbers have an unlimited number of significant digits. What gets included in an exact number? Does anybody have something that would be an exact number? Measurement, that varies. Amount of people, but more specifically, what you just gave me was a counting number. So when you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that is an exact number. "12 eggs in a dozen" is an exact number. 12 is an exact number because I counted the number of eggs. 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. That's an exact number because there's always 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. Another exact number are metric prefix conversion units. Well, close. yes, a mole can be an exact number depending upon how it's set up. And I'll explain that in a minute. Metric prefix includes 1 times 10 to the third grams, let's say, is equal to 1 kilogram. Both sides of that are exact numbers. 1 times 10 to the minus 6 liters is equal to 1 microliter. Those are exact quantities, meaning they have unlimited number of significant digits. So even though we're talking 1 there, and we would normally say, oh, that's just 1 significant, no, because it's part of a metric prefix conversion factor, it's unlimited. It's infinite. Now, it was mentioned a mole. When you use a mole in mole to mole ratios, those are exact numbers. When you use a mole in X number of grams is equal to a 1 mole, that is an exact number. The mole is an exact number. When you use 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd of X equals 1 mole, that mole is an exact number. So moles can be exact numbers. However, .54 molar, which means 3.54 moles per 1 liter, this is not an exact number. So that's why I said it depends. Basically, you'll notice that the ones where it was an exact number, we were saying something is equal to 1 of it, 1 mole. Every time we said something is equal to 1 mole, then that mole was an exact number. So let's do some examples where you actually work on them for the last few minutes of class. We'll do that. We'll start with that. And on the equalities, give me the number of significant digits on both sides of the equality. Oops. Questions? So on 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd sodium atoms is equal to 1 mole of sodium. That is Avogadro's number. The Avogadro's number portion is not, you have to actually count up the number of significant digits. There were 4 digits in the mantissa, so that's why there's 4 sig figs. But the 1 mole portion of that equality, that 1 mole is an exact number, and therefore there's an infinite number of significant digits. With 2.13005, the 2 was significant, the 5 was significant, so that goalposted everything. So there were 6 sig figs. With the 14.0600, the 1 was significant. The 0 at the end was significant because it was at the end of the number after the decimal. Therefore, it goalposted, and there were 6 sig figs. The 1.230 times 10 to the 5th, because there are 4 digits in the mantissa, there were 4 sig figs. The 0.00060, because I didn't even start counting until I got to a non-zero digit, that 6 was my first sig fig. And then the 0 after the 6 was significant because it was at the end of the number after the decimal. And then the molar mass for sodium chloride of 58.45. The 58.45 had 4 significant digits. but the 1 mole had an infinite number of significant digits. Questions? So one thing that you will note is anytime I use the periodic table to come up with a mass or a molar mass, I'm gonna think about significant digits associated with that number. But the 1 mole will always have a infinite number of significant digits. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is we are going to specifically talk about how to make a measurement so that you are recording the measurement to the correct number of significant digits. We are going to look at burettes. We're going to look at pipettes in particular, but I will also bring up graduated cylinders and other items as well. But you're specifically going to get some experience with burettes and pipettes. And I'm going to show you how to use those because the following lab, we are going to be using those in a measurements labs where you have to be much more precise. So I'm going to teach you tomorrow, and then we're going to use it the following week. Any questions for me? Yes. You will not have a lab quiz tomorrow because we've got all the other stuff that needs to be done. Your quiz is to give me that safety sheet signed. Don't forget that safety sheet. Yes. It's just the online form. You don't print it. You don't do anything. You just sign it, and I can actually pull up who's done it and who hasn't. Yes.
So I'm the one that emailed you before the semester about 8 a.m. possibly being like a minute or two late. So my child goes to Sally Commons, which is like right there, but they don't open the doors until 7. So
what most of the time so what I'm gonna have to do is I will get myself figured out with regard to you, and what will happen is if you can't finish the quiz, because normally that's the first thing I do. If you can't do the quiz in the time once you get there, then I will quiz you out for college, so give you the same amount of time I'm doing everything.
and
Most of
like I
the
said,
time,
I should be able to run, I should be able to run over here and make it, but just in case.
I understand.
I wanted it to not be like a major issue, but I'm not gonna make it a major issue.
No, labs are not usually a major issue if they're a few minutes late. If you're more than 10, 15
Yeah,
minutes late,
I
then
wouldn't
it's
be.
a problem.
I wouldn't be that. And there would be like something major going on. So,
I understand.
but no, he's pretty good about like kicking him in, But they have to sign him in and then go bring him inside. And he is autistic, but normally it's all good. So, but yeah. So I just look forward to it.
Not a problem.
All right, thank you.
You read much Brandon Sanderson?
I have not.
I started reading his books over Christmas break, and I did like 3 of them.
Oh, wow.
And it's like 3,000 pages.
Oh, wow.
It's
No,
pretty good.
I haven't read much of him.
Highly suggest it.
Gotcha.
I have accommodation, so most times I'm gonna take like testing. But like, how are the quiz?
So what I'll do is, with everybody, once I get in there, what I do is I have a way that can give you extra time on the quizzes, because the quizzes are online. So you have from 8 a.m. till midnight, some time to log in and take my quiz.
So do I have to do it in the classroom?
No.
Okay.
It's on your own. And I just give you, like, if you have a 1.5, I give you, and I gave everybody else an hour, you get an hour and a half. Of course, normally quizzes are shorter than that. You know, I give you the, whatever it says. Okay. So you get the time to about it, but it's on your own.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Not a problem. And your name?
Me, Andrea.
Me, Andrea. I won't have it by tomorrow, but I'll do my best.
And
Okay.
Okay, Munchkin. Let me log out of everything. Nope. I gotta learn this thing again.